going on, YouTube? I figured it was about time I recorded another video, but I've been thinking to myself, what do I want to talk about? Oh, all of that? Nah, we can't talk about that yet. You know, I've already done a collection tour. We'll have to wait on that one. Oh, I think I know what we can talk about. The Bandai Super Premium Godzilla. You know, in a very real sense, the Bandai Super Premium Godzilla kind of speaks for itself. I mean, look at all of that. Yeah, I couldn't even, put him on my desk for, proper footage or anything. We're going with the real boots-on-the-ground approach here because he's just so big. So, obviously, I should probably start with a little bit of backstory. So, this figure is meant to represent the 1994 Godzilla suit, which is from the movie Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And it was released to coincide with that movie in 1994. It's done in a hard vinyl. As I'm sure many of you are aware, 1994 was the last year that Bandai did primarily hard vinyl for their figures. Starting in 1995, they switched over to doing mostly soft vinyl, which they continue to do to this day. And in 1995, to coincide with Godzilla vs. Destroya, they released a second version of this figure, which was done in the sort of meltdown coloration scheme, which I will put pictures up of that. I do not have it, and I'm not going to get it. I should mention this guy cost a lot, yeah. I paid around $850 for him, plus $100 shipping, so not cheap, but he is absolutely probably the most iconic figure I own now. He stands at roughly 2 feet tall and is around 4 feet long. He's got this just utterly massive tail. It's pretty hefty, I would say. He's not as heavy as you'd expect. I feel like the Ultimate Godzilla back here is probably a bit heavier, but he's certainly a lot, bulkier. He's a lot more unwieldy. So, yeah, now that I've given you a bit of an overview, we're gonna, get into the thick of the review here. There's a certain wonder to the early to mid-90s Bandai figures. This is something I've mentioned before in past videos, but stuff from, the late Godzilla collection is just, my absolute favorite stuff to collect. And this guy's absolutely representative of that. So, the detail is absolutely stunning, Of course, given that it's a bigger figure, it's got quite a bit of detail, a fair bit more than, say, an 8-inch counterpart would be, though, of course, Bandai did not do a, proper 8-inch version of this suit, unfortunately. As you can probably tell, his eyes look a bit different, so for whatever reason, they chose to make his eyes separate pieces. And I don't think they're glass. I think there's some kind of translucent plastic. And I don't know if they're supposed to be this yellow or if they yellowed over time. But regardless, it gives him a very unique look, and it's almost as if his eyes are glowing. You can see them from across the room, and they look quite nice. As you can see, the face sculpt is really well done. There's tons of detail in there. Yeah, look at that. There's an interesting quality with the paint where it almost looks like there's white speckling. I cannot tell for certain, but it almost looks like that's on there. As you can see, we have the mouth. It's not 100% painted, but they do have the tongue painted. That's sort of the standard for how they did it with Bandai back then. And he does actually have his second row of teeth sculpted in, which, if I remember correctly, the standard 8-inch scale figure of the 95 suit, which is the same suit as this, just, burning version, does not have that second row of teeth. And many of the Bandai Heisei Godzilla sculpts seem to be missing that, which is unfortunate, but this guy has it, so good on them. If we turn him to the side here, he has a very menacing profile from this side. I definitely feel like this is his, best angle, is from the side on his, would be his right side. And that's how I have him displayed on my shelf currently, facing this way. If we look at him from the other side, and it's going to be a bit of a hassle to turn him around because of his big tail, I don't think he looks quite as good from this side, especially from like this head-on angle. And that leads to one of the potentially, I wouldn't say it's even an issue because it's barely noticeable, but with the way he's sculpted it, he's not in a static pose, I should mention. Unlike, say, a standard, 8-inch figure that would be, facing forward, looking forward and everything. He's got his head turned a bit. He's got his body, turned a little bit. His feet are not 100% in line, which, certainly makes him more interesting, but it does mean that, at least from this angle, I don't think he looks as good, and he kind of looks like he has a bit of an overbite. But that's just a small nitpick. It's not super noticeable. Let's turn him right back around, and we will get into talking about the rest of his body. So we got his hands here. I should mention he looks pretty good from the front, too. We got his hands here, which, they are articulated, but because it's hard vinyl, not a whole lot you can do with it. His claws, very, very well sculpted. Look towards the inside of his hand. It's got a lot of detail in there, so they're pulling no stops here, or pulling all the stops here. The claws are painted very well. Yeah, they're not missing any fingers or anything. They've got the inside painted. Same with the other one. And like I mentioned, the pose is not exactly symmetrical, so when we have his claws in fully, they're down there. This one, it's down here. They're not exactly right. And if we want to pose him with his arms more widely apart like that, you can do that. Looks like he's going to hug you, so as you can see, the detailing on the chest scales is quite detailed. It's got all the bumps and the grooves, and it's just look at that. Look at the layers of detail in there. It's quite nice. We can turn around to the back and have a look at these dorsal spines. So if you were to get this new out of the box, the spines would actually, some of them would be separate pieces, and you can tell because the separate pieces are very soft, and the ones that come attached are very hard. So I believe it would be, no, that one's attached. This is a separate piece, this one's a separate piece, and this one's a separate piece. And it would just be the three in that row on the outside that are the separate pieces, and they can actually, be moved if you chose to, for whatever reason. I don't know why you would do that, so I don't think it's necessarily intentional. It's just the fact that they came separately. But if we look in at the detail, it's very well painted. It's got a very nice shade of white and the black and the detailing and everything. And of course, given that this is a bigger figure instead of the smaller 8-inch and 6-inch figures, the spines are all separated. That was a thing with a lot of Bandai's Godzilla figures, especially their Heisei era figures, where the spines would basically be fused together. I suppose now that I'm looking, there is a bit of that here. Yeah, look at that. So, proven wrong. But regardless, it still looks really nice. Going down to the legs, this is another one of the, little nitpicks I have. His legs, they're not exactly straight down. They're very splayed out, and it means this is already a very big figure, and so it just means he takes up a lot more space than he would have. Not to mention his legs are very long compared to his overall body length, which isn't accurate for this suit. That would be more accurate for the 93 suit, the Rada Goji. which had very long legs and a very like high up torso. But you know, the detail still carries over. He's got some very chonky legs. This would be a great reference when I'm drawing Godzilla. Now that I look at it, because it's got, you know, it's the biggest reference I could get, and it's got all the detail in here. Yeah, lower leg. We got his feet. Toes are painted very well. I'm gonna go ahead and have a look, see here if there's anything of note on the bottom. No, it doesn't look like it. Made in Japan. This was back when the figures were made in Japan. Got all this stuff over here. But yeah, nothing, no stickers or anything like, you know, the 64 figure. So let's get started on this very long tail. Like I said, I think his total length is about 4 feet, and a good percentage of that is tail. Around here, where the first segment is, there is a bit of a gap, and I should mention, so this segment here is, you know, hard. The part that's attached to the figure, it's made out of very hard vinyl. This part starts to get a bit softer, and it gets even softer over here. But this part, there is a gap here, and so what you'd want to do is put something underneath this. If you were to get it new in the box, it would come with a stand, though if you can't find anything to put on it, I mean, it looks fine enough like this. It's not super noticeable. Getting the tail on was a little bit hard, so you're definitely going to want to use a hairdryer there. And of course, tip of the tail, you know, the painting does go down to the tip of the tail, so definitely Shin-Rub-Jiro would be very happy about that. You can turn it. Yeah, you cannot turn this part. I don't think it's fully attached, but you cannot turn it, so. And of course, the tail looks good. The painting definitely gets a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. And it's really cool to have such a long tail. So yeah, let's get into some size comparisons. So of course, first off, here he is compared to the big old Trendmasters Godzilla 1998, the Ultimate Godzilla. As you can see, he has a significant size advantage over him. This, of course, being one of the more popular figures in my collection, and one that I did do a pretty old, kind of dated, and kind of cringy video on. And now we have another classic Bandai figure. This is the 1988 release of the Great Monster Series Masugoji, or Godzilla in 1964. As you can see, the Super Premium is significantly larger, and you can also see the difference in sculpt quality over the course of, what, 6 years? Well, I suppose this sculpt originated about a decade before, so we'll go ahead and say it's a 10-year difference. Though, as I'm sure you know, the 88 release of the Great Monster Series Masugoji is pretty substantially different than the original 84 version. And another thing that's very striking is the difference in the tail length. Another large classic Bandai figure is, of course, the Godzilla 1991, which is my favorite figure in my entire collection. And as you can see, he is pretty much completely dwarfed by our Super Premium Godzilla. And once again, this shows about 3 years in the difference in the quality of Bandai sculpts. Between 91 and 94 was probably the period where Bandai's sculpt quality improved the most throughout their history. The most fair comparison is definitely with the Jakks Pacific Super Big. This is the 2019 Godzilla. I shouldn't say super big, it's called the giant-sized Godzilla. 2019 version, I did miss the 2014 version, which I like quite a bit more, but it's close enough that it doesn't matter to me. And as you can see, even the big Jakks Godzilla is a fair bit shorter than our Super Premium Godzilla. Well, there you have it. The 1994 Bandai Super Premium Godzilla. Go ahead and tell me what you think of this figure in the comments. Tell me, would you buy it if you had the money? I do highly recommend it myself. Once again, if you have the money, it is quite expensive these days. And yeah, if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I would certainly appreciate it. If you want to see more regular updates to my collection, I'm going to link my Instagram in the description. And recently I was on my buddy Getty's Oh My Godzilla's podcast. So I'm going to also link that episode in the description, so you can check that out if you want, get to know me a little bit more. And yeah, if there's anything else in the collection you want me to talk about, go ahead and let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.